Welcome in, everybody. It's going to be a pretty chill day today. I'm probably going to be like less than 45 minutes. A super quick day. We're just going to go over a sneak peek on this new assignment called HTML weather functions. This is the third version of the same assignment that we've been doing. On week 3, we did a project on weather. This was really just this was just to practice navigating dictionaries, accessing key and values. And then the second version of that assignment was HTML weather. Right? This is the same thing, but organizing the values into a table. Finally, we have this third version. Right? This is going to be a pretty cool version, actually. It's going to put a lot of things together. The project does look a little dense, so the goal today is to kind of unpack what's going on here. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and download this notebook. Okay, where is it? HTML weather functions. Yeah, project week 6. Okay, let me download it. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a directory for this. Okay, hold up. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second, Jim. I gotta move something.
Take your time.
Okay, let me get this notebook in here. So drag it. Let me put in this right folder. It's a good idea. I think some folks might have every notebook in a single directory. It might be a good idea to dedicate a folder to every programming project. The reason why is because in the future there might be an assignment that has multiple files. So that's why I have a separate folder for each of these. Okay, here's the notebook, the HTML weather. It's pretty much the same thing, but it's gonna be a little upgraded. All right, let's kind of talk about what kind of upgrade. All right, so a first upgrade will be a widget. I'm not expecting folks to be able to program this widget. It's actually already done for you. Right, the widget is already made. The whole point of this project is to write a function. That's literally it. Is to write a function down here called HTML weather, right? And then if you're able to satisfy all these specs, the inputs and the outputs, then the widget will kind of work seamlessly. So here, let's kind of motivate why we're kind of redoing this assignment. So going back to the previous version of this assignment, in week 4, right, so week 4, project 9, the previous version of this assignment had some hard-coded data. Let me go down here. Okay, so this is the previous version, project 9. The hard-coded data was right here. When we call the getWeather function, right, we have some numbers here, 36.9 and then -121. These are latitude and longitude. So this is hard-coded. The next version of this assignment will extend the functionality to where we can find out the latitude and longitude. Right? We can represent these more generally. Okay, so that'll make more sense when I go into this notebook here. So going back to this current version, project 11, let me kind of unpack this. There is a lot going on in this notebook, by the way. There's some 2 provided functions here. So there's a function called find city and another function called getWeather. Folks here are already familiar with the getWeather function. We've used this in the past 2 versions of the assignment. There is a new function in this notebook. It's called find city. They are down here. So the code cell here, people have seen this before, right? This get weather. The new function is called find city right here. All right, so brand new. Yeah, I know this might look hard to read, so you can actually just treat this like a black box, meaning all you need to really understand are the inputs and outputs. All right, so the docstring kind of tells us how to use the function. I'm actually going to go ahead and fix this docstring a bit. This docstring is a little, it's kind of helpful, but it could be a little more descriptive. So for the find city one, if you want to read more into it, it's all up here, right? You can just scroll up, and then provided functions. There's a little more detail on what these functions are doing. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of copy those down into the docstring. Right, you don't have to do this, but it's just to kind of make it easier to read. So there is the purpose here. Right, the docstrings usually contain a description of the arguments as well. Right, in this case, we have 3 arguments. We got a city, state, and country. So I'm gonna go ahead and describe those. So we got a city, state, and country. These are all strings. Right? They're supposed to be strings that represent kind of the query. Right? A query means we're asking where to grab data from. So this is technically a string that represents the location. And you know what? These are actually all the same thing. Right? These are all just strings that represent location. I do want to point out that the second and third argument can be blank. Okay, this is going to make sense in a bit. But basically, sometimes you don't really need to specify the state and country in order to find the city, right? So this will make sense in a bit. So this is the second and third argument can be blank, right? Okay, so I'm just kind of fixing up this docstring. All I really did right here was kind of repeat this information back down here. Right, so scrolling up, all I really did was kind of copy and paste these things. All right, this is the specifications of the function. Okay, and then the get weather function. Let me make this a little more verbose as well. So this is the get weather function. There's the purpose. There is also an input and output as well. Right, the input here, or the arguments. There's 2 of them. There's latitude and longitude. Now, these are inputs that represent a, I think it's a float, right? It's a float that represents the longitude, latitude. And the same here, float that represents the longitude. If folks are not familiar with latitude and longitude, these are just coordinates on the globe. Right, so you could look this stuff up, latitude. I know I've been using this word without really explaining it. But yeah, latitude and longitudes, these are just coordinates. Right? Latitude describes the axis on the x, and then longitude is kind of like the y-axis. Okay. Cool. I'm just fixing this docstring up a bit. Finally, there is a return value. Right? The output of this function is a dictionary, right? It's returns a dictionary with weather data. We've seen this in the past 2 assignments. Right? People were using this function to grab dictionary data. Okay, so all I did right now was fill in a couple docstrings. Right? The reason why is so I can kind of black box this away and not scare folks away from this code. Right? This code, let's go ahead and just kind of pretend like we don't know what it does, right? You don't really need to study this too much. All you need to know is that it works. It works with these inputs and outputs. So let me go ahead and play this cell real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and play. Okay, cool. So I press play. Nothing happened because this cell only defines 2 functions. We haven't used it yet. Okay. let me go ahead and hide this cell. So on the left, this blue bar is gonna hide it. I'm hiding it just so I can scroll up and down a little faster. Okay, cool. So I loaded the functions, I hid it. Let me insert another cell here. So I just press the plus button over here, add another cell below, and you'll be able to read this a little easier. All right, so there's a function called help, which will spit out documentation on certain things. For example, I'm gonna ask for help on the find city function. All right, I'm gonna ask for help here, and then I'm just gonna print out some equal signs, just so it can look a little neater. I'll print out 80 equal signs. Okay, so I'll press play, and there we go, right? The help function just prints out documentation. So here's the documentation. It's right here. It's telling us how to use the function. Right? You don't really have to look into the black box. You just have to kind of look at the inputs and the outputs. So given this information, you should be able to use the function. So let's go ahead and attempt to use it. All right, so I'm gonna go press plus again to add another cell. There it is, add another cell right below here. Okay, let's go ahead and use this find city function. All right, so to invoke it, it's find city, all right, and then we need these two parentheses here, and then we need to describe some arguments. So there's three inputs, right? City, state, and country. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hard code some strings in here, like aptos, and then for the second argument, I'm gonna hard code CA for California. Excuse me. And then finally for the country, I'm gonna put USA. All right, so there you go. I'm invoking a function. These three values get passed into the function, and it's going to return us something. All right, let's go ahead and read what this is gonna return. Okay, it looks like it's gonna return three things. All right, one is the name as a string, and then another one, the latitude, and then the longitude. All right, let's play this. All right, I'll press play, and there you go. All right, we see that the function evaluates to three things. Right, you see how it's kind of separated by commas, right? The first one is right here. Right, this is a string, and then it also returns a latitude and a longitude. All right, so I do want to reiterate that this function is returning three separate things. This is totally possible in Python. You might remember this from the functions chapter over here. So in the functions on lesson 10, I'm scrolling down a bit. Scrolling down a bit towards the middle, you might remember that it's possible to define a function that returns some values. All right, so comma separated. This is technically called a tuple. We haven't really covered this, but it's kind of like a list. It's kind of. You can think of it as like a data structure that holds some items. All right, so that's what's happening here. All right, this function is returning three things. So we can actually capture those three things into some variables. Right, I'm gonna use some really bad names, and I'll change it in a bit. All right, you can literally say x, y, z is equal to this. Right, and then all that's gonna happen is the three values that are returned will get put into these variables. All right, so there you go. I press play, and then yeah, x, y, and z becomes something. And if you want to print it out, you'll kind of see what's going on, right? I'll print x, and we get the name. All right, that's the this is the localized name of the city. That's what the function is returning. And then let's go ahead and print y. All right, we're just kind of sanity checking things. So print y. Okay, cool. It's a number, right? This is the latitude, and finally z. This is the longitude. Okay, great. So we're sanity checking these. It might be a better idea to make this a little more readable. Some better variable names would be, name, latitude, and longitude. All right, you can name it whatever you want. Okay, and let me go ahead and print these again. I'll just do some f strings. Name is, okay, f string that, latitude, oops. Okay, cool. Let me just press play real quick to see what's happening. Okay, there it is. Press play. We're sanity checking the return values from this function. And yeah, it looks good. Pretty cool stuff, right? Pretty cool. So yeah, that's kind of how we use this function. Right? We called the function, we stored the return values into some variables, and just kind of sanity checked them. Right? So yeah, that's where these numbers kind of came from. You can change these arguments, by the way. Right? This function is really I'll talk about how this function works later. It's really just asking a website. Right? It's kind of giving these arguments to a website and then asking it to kind of resolve the location. So I could give it Santa Cruz here. Right? I'll give it Santa Cruz for the city name. And then when I press play, it should give us different data here. Right? It should give us a different latitude and a different longitude. So let's see. So I'll press play, and there we go. Right? It's different. These variables are different now. There's the latitude and longitude. They look the same, but yeah, they're different. Are people cool with this so far? Okay. Earlier, I did mention that the second and third argument can be blank. So that's just a feature of the function. I could leave these blank, right? Instead of saying California here and then USA, I could just leave them as empty strings. Right, but what do you think might happen? Right, now we're pretty much saying find the location of Santa Cruz. Right, it's gonna give us some ambiguities actually, because there are multiple cities that have the name Santa Cruz. Right, in this case, if I press play, it's gonna give us Santa Cruz de something, and then it's somewhere else. Right, there's yeah, but people see what I mean. It's ambiguous, right? If we leave these state and country, right? The resolution is going to be a little ambiguous, and in this case, it just happens to choose this location right here. It's different Santa Cruz. Okay, so yeah, if folks are wondering what's happening, you can look into the black box. Right? You can go ahead and scroll up, and then open up this thing, this cell that I hid. Right? You could go ahead and dive down if you want. This is how the function works. All right, the function is saying, "Hey, website, give me data on this location," and then the website is going to try its best to resolve the latitude and longitude. So yeah, that's kind of what's happening there. Okay, let me hide this again. Cool. Let's keep testing. All right, we're kind of playing around with this helper function. So I'll play around and say, maybe Watsonville. All right, let's see what happens. I'm leaving the state and country blank. Let's see if it gives us a certain Watsonville. Press play, and it says Watsonville, United States. I think this is the one that's close to us. Let me verify. I'll put California and then US here as a second and third argument. Hopefully it's the same thing. So press play, and yeah, okay, it looks like it's the same thing. Okay, let's keep playing around with this. Let me leave the second and third argument blank, and maybe I'll try Tokyo. All right, Tokyo. Let's see what it gives us. Okay, cool. Tokyo, Japan. All right, and then it looks like, yeah, different latitude and longitude. I'm just curious what happens if I put in Tokyo and then California. All right, is there a Tokyo in California? Let's see. Oh, okay. It looks like there is. It looks like there's a Little Tokyo in California. This is probably somewhere in LA. I think. I think Little Tokyo is somewhere in LA. Okay, people cool with this? So we're kind of just playing around with the function, getting used to the inputs and the outputs. Okay, any questions about this so far? Okay. So, hopefully people see what I mean by the previous assignment is a little hard-coded. Going back to the previous assignment here, the week 4, project week 4, there was some hard-coded data here, the latitude and longitude. This next assignment will generalize this a bit and will kind of let us choose any latitude or longitude. It's going to depend on whatever city we're going to ask for. Okay. Cool. Where is my notebook? There it is. Okay. So yeah, this is a function, a helper function. We can use this data and pass it into another function. We've seen this before. It's called getWeather. The past two versions of this assignment, there's a function called getWeather. Right? You can look in the black box if you want. Right? You can look at this stuff. It's the same thing. Right? But you could also just look at the doc string. So I'm going to go ahead and insert another help so I can see it. Right, so right above it, I'm just going to say, hey, give me some documentation on getWeather. Right, this way you don't get too overwhelmed with the documentation. And then I'll print another set of equal sign. Okay, press play, and there we go. Right, we have documentation on the find city function, and also the getWeather function. Okay, so given this getWeather function, would you know how to use it? Right, would you be able to understand the inputs and the return values? All right, let's see. So the function is called getWeather. Okay, and it takes two arguments, latitude and longitude. Right, these got to be numbers. So what's a more general way? Right, should we hard code the numbers here? All right, in the previous assignment, we had oops, let me get rid of this. Right, in the previous assignment, we used these numbers here. Right, so we won't have to hard code this anymore. Right, like we won't have to go like this. Right, we don't have to hard code these literal floats anymore. These floats are more generally represented in these variables, right? Latitude and longitude, those contain it. So we can actually just put latitude and longitude here now. All right, there we go. So yeah, that's the inputs and outputs. This function does return a dictionary, so we can go ahead and capture it. All right, we can go ahead and capture the output, store it in something called weather. This is, yeah, people have seen this in the past two assignments. Okay, there we go. So the first line is asking for the location, and then this next function invocation is asking for data at that location. So let me go ahead and print it. Weather is, I'm just gonna interpolate the dictionary straight into here. It's not gonna look nice though. Yeah, it's not gonna look nice. Okay, let me press play. And there we go. Alright, so sanity checking the name, latitude, and longitude. And then finally we print out the dictionary. It's not nice, but the whole point of the assignment is to kind of organize this dictionary. Okay, people cool with this so far? Okay, so let's keep testing. All right, we were able to generalize the inputs to getWeather. So if we were to change these these location things, right? The city and state, right? We should see the dictionary be different. So yeah, let's see, right? Currently in Aptos, it looks like it's cloudy. So let's see how it is in Tokyo. So let's see. I'll just put Tokyo, and then I'm gonna leave the next ones blank because it looks like we were able to find the Tokyo in Japan without specifying more. Okay, so let's see what weather it is. Press play, and okay, it looks like it's cloudy there as well. So yeah, a little coincidence there. Let's try another place. What's a place that might be sunny right now? Let me just try. Let me try a place in China. I'll try Guangzhou. Okay, let's see if it correctly gets it. Oh, it's still cloudy here. Okay, so Guangzhou in China is cloudy. Interesting. Wait, is it really cloudy in those 3 locations? I guess it's a coincidence. Let me try to think of another place.
Hilo should be sunny.
Hilo. Oh, is that in Hawaii?
Yeah. Sun hasn't set there yet.
Okay. Let me try Hilo, Hawaii. HI stands for Hawaii, I think. Let me try that. Cloudy. Interesting. Okay, it's cloudy everywhere. Huh.
It's probably not cloudy in Abadai.
Abadai. I don't know how to spell that.
How about Tehran?
I don't know how to spell Tehran either. Is it Tehran like that?
There's an H in there somewhere. Tehran.
Tehran. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, let's try that. Clear. There we go.
There you go.
Okay, that was pretty interesting. It was cloudy in most of the places I typed in. Okay, cool. So, yeah, Tehran is clear right now. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. I was verifying that our weather dictionary changes. And yeah, it looks like it is changing. Okay, cool. So by now you should be a little kind of familiar on how to use these helper functions. The find city and then the get weather. If you know how to use these functions, all you really have to do is write another function. The whole point of this project is to do something called function composition, which is a fancy word of saying put multiple functions together. In this case, we're going to be creating a function called HTML weather. And then this is going to use the helper functions, right? We just played with 2 of them. So this new function is going to use those 2 of them, right? The find city and then the get weather. And then it's going to kind of return a formatted table, right? You've seen this in the previous assignment, right? The HTML formatted table. All right, so let's kind of unbox this a bit, right? Let's kind of start right away. So we need to define a function called HTML weather. Right, so right away, we can get that done. So in the solutions here, right, define a function called HTML weather. Okay, there it is. I'm just setting it up. And then let me scroll up a bit just to see what the specs are. Okay. It says it's going to take 3 inputs, right? The city, state, and country, just like the find city function. Okay, so the arguments. So let's get those 3 arguments in there. Right, so it's city, state, and then country. All right. And then I might as well do the doc string, just so folks know what the purpose of this is. So the purpose of this function is to generate an HTML table of weather data from a specified location. Right, that's the purpose of this function. You can pretty much read the directions, and it's going to say this. So let me go ahead and describe the arguments. All right, these arguments are just like the find city function. The city, this is a string that represents the queried location. Right, this is saying the string represents where to search. And then these are optional right here, state and country. Right, it's just like the find city functions, because sometimes you don't really need to specify the state and country. You really only need to specify the state and country if the city name is ambiguous. Like Santa Cruz, right? Santa Cruz is ambiguous because there's. Here, I'll just pull it up. Let me Google this. City names with same name. Cities with same names. Okay, cities with same names. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like there are 46 cities that are named Santa Cruz. Interesting. Let me take a look at this. 46 cities named Santa Cruz. This is the one we're in, the United States one. And there's a bunch of other Santa Cruzes too in different regions. So yeah, but basically when we specify Santa Cruz, you might want to not leave those arguments blank. Oh, it looks like Santa Cruz and Honduras. Okay, nice. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. So yeah, that's kind of what I mean by these can be blank, but yeah, so this is just another string that I'm just gonna say dot dot dot. I think people see what these are. I'll let you fill this in later. Okay, this function should return something, by the way. You can read the directions for this up here, so I'm gonna scroll up. Here's the specifications. It needs to return an HTML object that contains a table. So yeah, let's go ahead and repeat that down here. So this returns an HTML object that contains the table. Contains the table of data. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna set up the skeleton of the function real quick, so folks see what I mean by this widget down here. I know this widget kind of looks scary. It's actually already written for you. You actually don't really have to worry about this for now. So yeah, don't worry about this. If anything, you should probably like test manually before running the widget. So let's go ahead and set up this function real quick. I'm gonna return a dummy value, and folks can fill it in later. Right, so to create an HTML object, we've been creating strings. Right? You might have seen in the past, we usually call it my HTML. Right, you can call it whatever you want. I'll call it my HTML. And please be mindful of the spaces too. I noticed that some students don't indent correctly. Indentation matters in Python. Right? If it weren't for indenting, then this technically doesn't belong in the function. So please be mindful of indents. Okay, so inside this function, I'm gonna create a HTML string. All right, so it's empty right now. I'm just gonna put a to do in here. All right, folks will fill this in later. So put to do, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and return it. All right, once again, this function needs to return an HTML object. All right, so let's go ahead and return it. HTML, my HTML. Right, this basically converts the string into an HTML, and then a future caller can use the HTML and display it. Okay, so this is just a skeleton. Oh, you know what? I think I need to import something. You see this HTML thing right here? I think I need to import. Let me look at a previous lesson. HTML. Yeah, I need to import this thing right here from Interactive Python. So copy and paste. There we go. This will let us use the HTML conversion. Okay, I'll press play. It doesn't do anything yet because all we did was define a function. So let's go ahead and call it. Right? I don't recommend using the widget yet. It might be information overload if we try to understand this right now. But yeah, go ahead and try to call this manually. So I'll create another cell. Right, this is just another cell to invoke it. So we can go ahead and invoke it. Right, so HTML weather. It's gonna take in 3 arguments. So I'm just gonna say like Santa Cruz, and then maybe California, then USA. Right, so these 3 arguments, these 3 strings will get sent up into here. Right, the function will grab those, and it's gonna do something with it. Right, it's gonna do something with it and generate a table. So for now, it's actually going to just print to do, or no, it's not printing. It's just showing us the value. I'm gonna display it, so it technically prints. Okay, I'm gonna display this whole thing. So yeah, it's just printing to do, right? The whole point was just to invoke the function and make sure there's no errors in between here, right? No syntax errors. Okay, cool. So we have it. Hopefully people might see the intended goal of this, right? Like basically, if I were to press play on this cell, it shouldn't print to do. It should instead print out the whole table of data. In particular, it should print it from Santa Cruz, right? Meaning, if I were to change this, right, Aptos, right, and play again, it should print something else, right? You see what I mean? So please be careful not to hard code the function to work with a single location, right? This function needs to be dynamic, meaning that any location, right, will get sent up into here, which will possibly change the values in your table. So let's see. Once you think you understand the pipeline of this assignment, you can go ahead and test out these widgets. Right, the widget is already written for us. If the function is working perfectly, then the widget will run fine. So all this widget does is call the function for you. Right, that's all it does. So let me go ahead and run it. Press play. Okay, it didn't call the function for us yet. Right, it actually gave us 3 separate widgets, but it didn't generate anything yet. Right, so basically these are arguments to the function. Right, like you see how in this manual invocation, there's 3 arguments. That's the same thing here, right? Like if I were to say Santa Cruz here, right? That's literally the same thing as saying Santa Cruz here, right? Or if I were to say like Tokyo, right? So Tokyo, and I'm gonna leave these blank, right? The widget, it's gonna be the same thing, right? It's gonna say Tokyo, space here, nothing here, nothing here. All right, so that's all the widget is doing. It's just giving us a user interface for the arguments into HTML weather. And then there's a get weather button here. All this does is runs the function for us. Right, so instead of pressing play, right, this is pretty much a play button. So press play, and yeah, it prints to do. All right, prints to do because that's the return value from this function. Okay, hopefully people are getting a sense on how to kind of do this assignment. If anything, this function is going to use the helper functions that we talked about earlier. All right, so scrolling up a bit, we kind of played around with the helper functions, right? Like the find city, and then the get weather function. So yeah, we played around with this. If anything, all you really need to do is kind of use these functions Right? This is just an example. So you're gonna have to kind of copy some things down here. Okay, does that make sense, everyone? Does that make sense what to do? The end result is when you press get weather, it's gonna show a nice table that's very similar to the previous assignment. Okay, yeah, this should be a fun one. Should be a really cool one. Okay, let me make sure I covered everything. Yeah, yeah. Cool, yeah, that should be about it. This is pretty much the last assignment, and then we have 2 weeks off, kind of. It's not really 2 weeks off. It's more like a time for folks to catch up. So looking at the weekly schedule, see, this is where we're at, week 6. These next 2 weeks, we're not going to have any assignments. And that's just to let folks catch up for the midterm. Okay, I think that's about it. So yeah, once again, it's going to be a short day. Like I said, it's going to be less than 45 minutes.
I do have a couple of comments to make about geolocation.
Yeah, what's up,
Um,
Jim?
One of the things in radio, we use different ways of geolocation. We use a Maidenhead grid. Latin
Mm-hmm.
long in decimal format is a very preferred way to do it. No
Mm-hmm.
minutes, seconds, and such like that. Degrees and
Mm-hmm.
decimal degrees. Um, but another one that some people have said is useful is a geohash,
Mm-hmm.
which is a string, which then can be interpreted to the Latin long. But
Mm-hmm.
a geohash is dependent upon how many characters there are in the string.
Mm-hmm.
It has uh, greater definition, and so rather than pass the two floats, instead pass one string.
Interesting. That's pretty secure. Is it for security reasons? Hold up.
No, I think that it just makes it makes it a more simple,
Mm-hmm.
concise method of describing a geolocation.
Mm, that's pretty cool. I didn't know this hash was reversible. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yep. So that's what I understand. Some people, we're always looking for different ways of doing a geolocation, whether it be what 3 words or Google Plus code
Mm-hmm.
or different ways because, well, hell, once upon a time it was the Thompson map page and grid square that's used on it. And
Mm-hmm.
then in amateur radio, we use something that's called the Maidenhead grid squares, where
Mm-hmm.
the world is divided up into 1 by 2 degree squares. We
Mm-hmm.
use that often. So there's all different kinds of ways, but the I think that the most preferred way is what you're using there is the lat long in degrees decimal format.
Mm-hmm. I see. Which one do you prefer?
The lat long decimal format I think is the most easily interpreted, but
Mm-hmm.
the geohash is interesting in that you can put it into a string. There are,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has certain features that it's um, that they don't use zero, or they don't use an O. They don't use characters that could be misconstrued.
Mm.
And then the other thing is that you can then easily phonetically say that, and so anyway, it's just another way. It seems to
Mm-hmm.
be popular with some people.
Mm-hmm. There's, I bet this geohash has some kind of safety to it too. So if they were to accidentally mistype something, then maybe something doesn't add up.
Yeah, and you can actually look on a map and find out where geek is. It's
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in Scotland.
Oh, really? Let me look that up. That's pretty funny. Let me look up geohash locator. Geohash locator converter. that looks right. And then I'll type in geek. Then let's see where that brings us. Right here in.
Oh, it's in Iceland, huh?
Yep, in
Oh,
Iceland.
oh, okay.
Geek. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Good, good,
And
good
then,
to know.
like I said, we use Maidenhead here in Aptos, where Charlie,
Mm-hmm.
Mike, and Niner 6 is our
Mm-hmm.
Maidenhead grid square.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
that's
interesting.
what we, yeah. So whenever we're identifying our location on the radio internationally, then if somebody asks where I am, I'm CM96.
Mm-hmm. Cool, cool. Thanks for the insight, Jim. It's very interesting.
Yep, just another fun toy to play with. All right, well, thank you very much. This is good.
Yep, yep. Alrighty.
I accidentally yeah, do my program. I end up last time I ended up like 1 o'clock in the morning
Mm-hmm.
tweaking out the program. So
Oh, well, hopefully you get some sleep this time.
all right, thank you again.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Have a good night. All right. Have a good night, everybody, on the YouTube, or a good day.